Hello everyone, welcome to the Ahdurin region. I am your host Ahdurin himself. We're back with another Explorers of Sky challenge video here. Before we begin, a couple of notes. Number one, there are obviously spoilers for this game. I'll be jumping through it a lot, but in case that matters, thank you for watching. Click off the video before you get spoiled. Second off, this is the Team Nightmare challenge, the Chaos challenge, the Joker challenge. Not only have I not created the thumbnail, I also haven't titled the video in my head. By the way, Clear Aqua Blue Bow for all of you people that wanted to know, because that's very important. Actually, go ahead and ask anyway in the comment section. That'd be great. I wanted to create a challenge for today because today is today, and I'm going to leave it at that. As a result, however, I wasn't completely sure what to do. This was the closest idea I had, and by the time I started it, the deadline was getting very close. As you can probably tell, or maybe not, I'm recording this day of, so letting you all know that in advance. Also, another thing, I'm just jumping all over the place. Anyone that recognizes the nickname I gave my partner there, from where it's from, go ahead and let me know if you recognize what that is from the comment section, because it's a fun little Easter egg. I'll give you a hint, it's not a Pokemon thing, and that's that. Anyway, wanted to do a challenge about today being today, and the closest I could get was the Jokers of this specific universe. You can take that as you want, either the card, the Batman villain, whatever. And this was basically it, creating the Joker team. Part of the team right here being the actual bad guy in this specific universe, the Time Darkness Sky bad guy here. You'll see Darkrai later on. Darkrai doesn't show up in the main storyline. And then the main story villain, which is corrupted Dialga, Primal Dialga over here. And he was, perfect fit. I think it fit me because Primal Dialga is technically being controlled by Darkrai, if you wanted to go with that. The corruption and all that. It's a very long story, and we don't have time to go into that right now, but I thought it'd be nice if I was that, and my partner, being the one that actually talks a lot, makes more sense for them to be the actual Darkrai. There's also a couple of advantages game-wise that I didn't realize at this point. I will soon realize eventually. Anyway, naming myself Primal because I couldn't think of a better name. My partner, The Fool, is, again, go ahead and let me know if you recognize what that is. But without further ado, let's just go into this fun little challenge. You'll see doing the Team Nightmare Joker team here quickly causes problems. Not now. We'll get into that when we get into that, though. First off, of course, changing all the settings that are, need to be changed. Frame type, I stick with the original one. It's fun being a Pokemon that is considered, I guess, non-gendered, I guess is the best way to describe it, because Dialga, being a legendary, along with most legendaries, doesn't fit into the male or female categories. It's fun that they defaulted to the female thing. No one's ever going to experience this. I don't even think when you change your team leader later on in the games that changes, but if it does, that's a fun fact that I have not experienced. Anyway, let's actually get into the story. These are some bad guys here. We, of course, following a fun little journey ourselves through Beach Cave, have decided to beat them up. Now, this team is very, very fun. Of course, Dialga being Dialga starts off with Metal Claw, which is a great move. Darkrai being Darkrai starts off with Ominous Wind, which is one of those moves that's significantly better in the Mystery Dungeon franchise as opposed to the main story game, because it's got the same chance of increasing all your stats and speed, but increasing your speed also lets you move multiple times per turn, or in more if you get extra turns as time goes on, which is that much more impactful. So Darkrai, partner, gonna be dominant throughout this entire run. It's a room move as well. It's a ghost type move, I believe. So just full on great. Initially was gonna go with Team Corruption here. I decided Team Nightmare more fit my partner's goals in life, namely to set the world in an endless stage of nightmares, which of course, in order to do that, we have to go with the greatest Pokemon of all time and learn from them. This is a fun little thing that I saw. The sleep animations here. Dialgas make sense. Darkrai, the way that I interpreted it was karate chopping themselves to sleep, which, sure, I guess, whatever floats their boat. Ominous Wind right there, you can see itself being very impactful. And we're going to be very dominant in the early parts of this run. There's a significant portion of this run that is me just going through the game, which makes sense. We've got two legendaries here, easily able to get through Drenched Bluff without a problem at all. Darkrai, I think this is the beginning of the villain arc right here, which is when we get a bunch of money, and then out of nowhere, Chatot comes over and just steals all of our money, which is very, very disappointing. Big L plus ratio. Moving on to the next dungeon, we're about to go into our first bad guy battle at the end of this dungeon here, the end of Mount Bristle, with the battle against Drowsy. Again, you can probably tell that's going to be pretty easy, Drowsy being a psychic type. We have Ominous Wind on our side, which is going to be super effective, and we're quickly racking up levels as well, which is very, very nice. All, as so far, pretty decent in this run. Azurill wondering where their water float is. Drowsy's like, hey, it's not here. Instead, go inside that area and fight a potential bad guy right there. Do they confirm there's a rumor of treasure? No, they don't, unfortunately. But like, go in there, grab the treasure. Don't run away. Why are you running away? We come over and we're like, all right, let's do this. Let's fight. We're kind of scared. A Darkrai is scared of a Drowsy. It's so fun to play these little starter game switcheroos because then it makes these dialogue boxes even more funny. But anyway, getting to our first boss battle. Now, Drowsy, I have to admit, when going through the regular game, can give me some trouble. It might just be the boosted HP. It might just be the fact that Drowsy has the ability, I think it's Foresight or Forewarn, I believe, that makes it hard for moves to hit. So instead of all of that, we decide, hey, let's just abuse the abilities that we have. I'll start chucking rocks. You go Ominous Wind. Forewarn evades it, which is actually going to be a trend here. So the Fool doesn't really help out too much here. But I kind of just, let Drowsy try to beat up on Darkrai while I go for Metal Claw after Metal Claw, eventually succeed, and we shift over to lunch here. This is a fun little scene. Apparently Dialga eats by flashing the gem, which is very, very fun as well. We do a little bit of sentry duty, which is also great. This is how our wake-up animation is, by the way. And we move on with the story. Now, this is the little fun part here. The interesting thing here, I'm wondering, it makes sense for the regular starters to get through the hole to climb up top. How does Dialga fit in there? Darkrai itself, I can sort of understand, it kind of fades out. Dialga fitting through the sentry hole kind of is hilarious. I'm guessing the new sentry hole is either like way too big or Dialga like shrinks, eats one of those Mario mushrooms or something, and moves on from there. We continue forward here as we get into Waterfall Cave. There's this weird vision I'm getting as Primal Dialga. Maybe it's part of my corruption. Maybe it's part of me being a human. Maybe it's because I'm Dialga. Dialga probably has visions of the past, the future, etc. as much as possible. So we continue going forward from here as we're about to charge into this waterfall. Darkrai pumps themselves up. Be brave. Be the bravest ever. I love that line for no reason whatsoever. I think it's because it's referenced 1,000 times in this campaign of Explorers of Sky. You gotta admit, love these games. This is probably one of, if not my most favorite game ever, but there are a lot of flashbacks, which is normally fine when you're going through this game at a normal pace, not as fine when you're going through it in a speedrunner mode. I quite literally had speedrunner guides going through and trying to make sure that I was doing the optimal number of missions and escaping from dungeons as quickly as possible, but it does kind of hurt to see the flashbacks immediately after, learning about those specific situations. Dialga gets another vision here, by the way, about this giant gem here. If you pull it, it doesn't do anything. If you push it, splash. So guess what happens next? Darkrai goes and pushes it, and boom. This is going to be fun. We fly out of there. Apparently this waterfall is able to push a Dialga, which is, I believe, like 2,000 pounds or something, fly them out into the hot spring over here where we just kind of relax. You can see my feet underneath, which is kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. You could just see my feet sticking out as Dialga underneath the water, so it's either that like specific section is really clear. Darkrai has like their toes getting wet in this entire journey, which is also very fun as well. Speaking of fun events here, our good friends are back of Team Skull, Coughing and Zubat. We gotta love them. I mean, they ran through a journey before themselves, which is very, very fun. Part of our corruption, the evil team here, is probably based on Zubat and Coughing bullying Darkrai, which is not very good. Skuntank comes over and somehow, as a poison type, is able to beat up on a steel type, which is, right here. Bam. That's either a really powerful poison move, or that's not a poison move, which is also very, very fun. And apparently I'm just out of it at this point. They go find out about the expedition, which is also going to be fun. They're going to join our journey, and actually, this is part of the corruption right here. We're about to get started with where this run became infinitely more complicated to actually process. Now, I will admit, as most of these runs are, doing these type of things on games that are clearly not made for it and where there isn't a lot of developments in modifying them. You've heard of maybe like Sky Temple, which is also very big, and it definitely does help. Me as a terrible coder and not a person that's able to really deal with it, has to deal with these sort of issues through the power of action replay codes. That's right. I think it's because of Dialga, actually, but for story purposes, we'll blame Team Skull for this. Nevertheless, because Team Skull is here, I think there's some sort of issue in general with this specific screen, and there's a couple of other screens later on that cause the same sort of issue. I'm trying again and again at this point, like, okay, maybe it was just weird my computer broke. Well, it's not that, because it's still happening again. New time, new day. Waited a couple of hours, tried to run it through. That didn't work. Maybe it's because I'm trying to run through it and spam the B button. So I press A for this. I'm ready. Wait for it, and pauses again. So it's not ideal. And in fact, we've got to actually go back to an old faithful strategy of, instead of being Dialga and Darkrai in the overworld, let's switch it up. I go with the first two starters and bring them in. This is able to work. I'm assuming, again, it's because of Dialga and or Darkrai, which will be interesting just to check out the next time I do an Explorers of Sky challenge. For now, we're going to work with the secondary strategy of just transforming into Charmander and Bulbasaur whenever we get those weird glitchy things like this, for example. Again, this is going into a scene where we're going to be eating with Team Skull. I'm guessing that has something to do with it as well, so we transform into them, able to get through those scenes, and move on to the next stage, which is Apple Woods. While there's no bad guy here, Team Skull is going to be Team Skull and try to ruin our lives here. As usual, transforming out. It's fun actually to notice here. Sort of similar to Blue Rescue Team, there are different milestone points or checkpoints, I guess, where the game sees which starter you are or what Pokemon you are, transforms you or fixes that if it's not up to date. So you saw walking into the dungeon, it was fine, but then, actually starting the dungeon, we became our normal selves, Dialga and Darkrai. This is a fun little scene here where I'm thinking I can sell items and buy the gummies and all that sort of stuff, and accidentally realized I don't have the money for it. So I accidentally stole from Kecleon, and once you steal from Kecleon ain't gonna be easy on you. So this is a fun little moment here where I realize I've just made a terrible mistake, because nobody messes with Kecleon. Nevertheless, able to move forward from there. I make sure to time it properly here. This is actually going to be the biggest issue for problems going forward, is finding that right time where you're supposed to be who you're supposed to be for the scene, if that makes any sense. So earlier on into the dungeon, we walked in as Charmander and Bulbasaur, which I think carries over, even though I've still technically got the transform into Dialga and Darkrai phase, that specific code up. It's not at that checkpoint yet. It's at the previous checkpoint where I was a Charmander and Bulbasaur, and therefore carries that over. If that made any sense, great. If that didn't, feel free to ask about it in the comments, and hopefully I have a better explanation there. Nevertheless, they seem to have poison. I've never quite understood this. I assume they're either going to ambush us or poison the apples. We don't fall for it. They go for the noxious gas combo, which, again, doesn't really make sense to have effect on me as a poison type, right? This is even a thing in the main games, but, maybe it's that noxious. And then Zubat as well gets effect. It's one of those things that you're just like, how would that? All right, sure, whatever. It's that noxious, I suppose. And we've got to head back to hear the wonderful saga here of Chatot being Chatot and yells at us, and then at this point we've passed that specific checkpoint to transform into Dialga and Darkrai. Walk over here, Wigglytuff. At this moment, right about here, when he starts crying, I realize, oh snap, Wigglytuff might be a fairy type. We gotta freak out, run for your lives, and then to save the day, Team Skull's like, hey, here, take this perfect apple. We, at this point, have become full-on villains. Darkrai is already preparing the ability to nightmare the world. I have already been corrupted. At this point, I'm in the stage right now where I can want to preserve the nightmare. So, yeah, we're just preparing. I blame Team Skull for this. Again, another nightmare situation. Look, I want to be the one that causes the nightmare. Instead of that, however, we eventually have to just revert back to an old save state, which I've been using all this time to make sure I can properly find that timing. It would be a pain to have to use solely the save function in the game to find the right timing, especially if you override a save, then you gotta restart the entire game. Otherwise, you get to certain points. I actually did this run initially, and then got to a point where I basically overrode a save and then made it so that I was stuck in this endless loop of forcing myself to be Darkrai and Dialga, which isn't ideal to do, especially when you're on a time crunch that you yourself set, which, isn't great. So I had to revert to an old save state to turn back into actual starters to get back to this point, which is very, very fun all the same. Here's another instance of Team Skull being Team Skull, which also isn't great, which ultimately turns into us, again, trying to be the normal starters. And then effectively, as much as I can, I try to keep Dialga and Darkrai as the overworld characters, but then if you see any points in time in the future Charmander and Bulbasaur show up, it's because I needed that in order to keep the game alive effectively. We're working with Bidoof here. Very, very fun. Chatot being Chatot is chat-oning away. While we go through these next couple of dungeons, here's a random thing I noticed while going through these specific games. For anyone that's played the King's Quest V games, if you're a fan of mah-dry-bread, then he did a series himself on the King's Quest V and 6 games. But in King's Quest V, there's an owl named Cedric. And throughout this run, I think it came to me that Chatot reminds me of Cedric so much, as a assistant character that helps out a lot, and yet at the same time could possibly be the most annoying character in the history of mankind. You gotta love them for what they do, but at the same time, it's just kind of one of those like, come on, man, type of characters, which a couple people have. Anyway, we recognize, as we shift back into this game, we recognize this sort of area, get through the dungeon remarkably decently. Another instance where we have to actually transform back into a starter here. But we, after recognizing this specific area, continue to go through with our own respective journeys here, going through Foggy Forest, finding this interesting stone as well, which could be interesting going forward. I've said interesting twice, and now we move to Foggy Forest. This, again, as another dungeon, and we're still at this point now, we're in the teens when it comes to levels. I'm level 13, Darkrai's level 12. As you'll soon see later on, either Dialga goes remarkably quicker when it comes to level up. I'm not 100% sure what it is. I haven't dived into the code between the differences of Darkrai and Dialga, but I eventually do quite decently out-level Darkrai, but Darkrai definitely has better stats, especially when it comes to HP. Continuing on forward, though, we have to... I don't think we actually turn back into a starter. I think the checkpoint for this was earlier on, going in, effectively. It keeps that memory in mind as we continue forward with this, and eventually find this giant statue, which is very, very interesting, as two people that are trying to both solve this mystery and continue forward with the expedition, finding other people to join our team to take over the world. We find this path to treasure statue, something that could be fit in, maybe, to the heart of this statue after this dream sequence that I have right about now. Eventually, I sort of cut this. Throughout this entire run as well, I'm trying to keep it as flash-free as possible, because Explorers of Sky as a game as well tends to have a lot of large flashes of white light and moving lights sort of things, which normally isn't a problem in the main games when just playing through it normally, but with these type of runs where I speed things up, it could cause issues with your eyes. I've tried to do my best to avoid that, but please let me know in the comments if it's, one of those things that I should cut down even more. Nevertheless, now that we've released the fog and reached this sort of area, we're continuing forward in our dungeon. We're still able to do decently well against opponents right now. No one's really causing us too much trouble until this, Groudon. Groudon's the first real problem that you could potentially have in a dungeon. If you're not like me and struggle against Drowsy, then this is probably the first battle that's up there as the, oh boy, this is going to be tough battles. But we have Ominous Wind, a ghost type move, very powerful, can quickly stack up on itself, so not only are you getting like +4 to all your stats, but also getting that speed boost as well. It's very much me playing support while Groudon charges at us, and we pray that my Ancient Powers and Darkrai's Ominous Winds are enough to take out Groudon here. Darkrai doesn't even have to move, which is a very nice bonus as well. We let Groudon walk up to us. And then, also, now that I have Disable, I'm able to paralyze Groudon to the point where they're not able to make any moves. My Ancient Powers here at this point just start chucking them, seeing if I can get the boost as well. And Darkrai also has the IQ ability to not, overtly use Disable or other sort of status moves, which is very nice as well. Getting those stacked bonuses is very nice. It's leading to the point effectively where if we're able to get a good enough start, as we do in this specific run so far, any boss battle isn't even able to attack us, because at any point in time, Darkrai can disable the foe. We'll soon eventually learn Hypnosis, which operates under a similar effect, and then the Ancient Power Ominous Wind boosts speed us up, get us higher stats, and effectively just make these runs remarkably easy. It helps as well. Groudon has not decided to be particularly impactful when it comes to damaging us, much more willing to do basic attacks and scary faces, bulk ups, and other items like that aren't actually hitting us. And eventually, after a lot of, we're not really powerful, that's the one downside that we have, but after a lot of attacks here, eventually we're able to take out Groudon as we do there. Which is great. Groudon somehow explodes in a fiery flame of a couple of bursts here and there, flashes in a light, and disappears, only to find out that we were fighting an illusion, the actual Groudon probably significantly more complicated to deal with. But we continue forward from here, eventually meeting up with this guy, Yuxi, guarding over something interesting in Fogbound Lake. What is it? Well, it's this ocean. It's a dark ocean, which is, very fun. Fogbound Lake, it's a dark lake. That makes more sense. With a bunch of flashing lights. These are always one of the scenes that I find really interesting. It's very nice to see. And Volbeat, the other one, that one, also there. A time gear. I'm excited about that. This is actually part of the game plan, was to take over the world, which is to make sure we find all the time gears and then destroy them, or something along those lines. Another glitch item is about to show up here. Wigglytuff is gonna, after we have a little question with Yuxi, like, hey, did you take my memory? Yuxi's like, nah, I don't do that. I can only take these memories, which, that's your own thing. Did you hit your head hard enough to lose your memory or something like that? Not on me. Wigglytuff shows up here, and Wigglytuff decides to ruin our plans after meeting with Groudon and making friends with the water, causing Waveort. We get a nice little scene right here, and here is where we get another soft locky sort of thing. Yay! Woo! Look, the game is trying to stop Team Nightmare from taking over the world, which is fun, but not because we want to take over the world. That's our goal. So I think, hey, we could probably do this by resetting, going back, fighting this battle again as starters. Similar moves, as you notice here. It doesn't revert the moves, it only reverts the starter themselves. I also don't know how it really impacts stats-wise, but again, similar sort of strategy in mind. Ominous Wind plus Ancient Powers plus making sure Groudon doesn't get a hit on us eventually leads to success here. We're getting multiple moves off per turn, which is why these sort of moves are very impactful and why this run was very straightforward, I think. Pretty easy to work with. We just have a Charmander at this point, Darkrai, playing support. We go for attacking, Ominous Wind and Ancient Power, throw rocks, the usual strategies here, until eventually we're able to take out Groudon. We don't get the stab bonuses, which is not ideal, but go through here. I think it works. Nope, the wrong cut point. We have to go all the way back to the forest at this point, getting back to this stage so that we can go into the we can go based on the save states. We have to go back here so that we can go and get the heart inside Groudon so that we can walk into the dungeon as a starter and then eventually get to this point here. It's fine that we're actually Dialga and Darkrai because before the scene happened, we were Charmander and Bulbasaur. Can you tell that this run kind of took a lot out of me? Because I had to find all these timings and save states. I was saving every other floor effectively, just trying to find the right point to make sure that I could get this run going. You've seen this Groudon fight before. It's happened very effectively. I don't know if this was the best run that we had, but it was certainly up there. And also we've got 14 different power bands, special bands, by the way. That's another thing that we have as well. As Dialga, I tend to have more physical moves, so I was holding Power Band. Partner tends to have more special moves, especially when it comes to Ominous Wind being one of the big moves, so gave them the special band, and for the majority of this run, that tends to be what we have. We get through this scene. Now that we're actually starters, we can go through this proper scene. Maybe other Pokemon would have worked as well. I didn't want to test it while doing this run because, again, I'm at this point, after the run is over, I'm not sure if it's because we were Darkrai and Dialga, if one of those two were the problem, or if it's because we weren't a starter Pokemon. So we'll probably figure that out this time. Everyone gets scared of the Groudon. Everyone sees this wonderful lake that's having a little like a geyser-esque moment right there. The treasure of Fogbound Lake is this view, and probably also the time gear, but it's the view. And somehow I know about this time gear and everything all the same. A mystery. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Can you... Look, this is the bright side of not having a script is that I can go off the cuff. The downside is I get jokes and comments like that coming from my mouth, which is not ideal. Also, fun little thing right here. There, as Diglett trying to find out who Dustnor is, there's another glitch right there. Dustnor is now the cause of this, as Team Skull has disappeared off the face of the earth. Fun little thing right here. It's fun where Darkrai's like, you couldn't even recognize Primal Dialga. How Diglett's not all that if you can't recognize a legendary Pokemon that most people don't even believe exists. So how are you gonna recognize Dustnor? Very fun all there. But Dustnor comes over, learns a little bit about the expedition, is vibing out in Treasure Town, while we continue with our own respective adventures as we kind of, run around in circles, training, learning more things. Our secret plot to take over the world is in our specific room. I only hope that people aren't reading my diary the same way that they could read everybody else's diary. Continuing on from here is now, at this point, Azuro, Meryl, come over. They're like, hey, our water float's at the top of this large dungeon. You mind getting it for us? We're like, sure. As at this point, they're officially members of Team Nightmare, and our plot to take over the world, they're going to be generals, so we might as well get them now. And clearing, we do reach, moving up from here, trying to see how we can defeat this squad right here. Again, one of those dungeons that's incredibly complicated if it's just the two of you with your normal movesets. But since we're Dialga, since we're Darkrai, we're just gonna, do the normal spread move damage thing. As you can see here. Strategy number 1, switch on Ominous Wind. Strategy number 2, switch on exclusive move user. Strategy number 3, pick a move that I feel like using. Strategy number 4, spam it as much as possible. So take one quick step to the left, Ominous Wind. And the fun thing about Ominous Wind, Ancient Power, and other things like that, especially Ominous Wind, it determines the boost thing based on every Pokemon that is attacked. So because Darkrai attacked, 8 Pokemon, 7 Pokemon or so, that means that it just quickly shoots up a bunch of stats, multiple turns per turn, effectively, and quickly get through this specific dungeon here. Manectric, despite that, able to nearly beat us, only for Dustnor to be like, no, it's not them, it's you. Go home, even though that's kind of here. Go away, please. Manectric's like, okay, I got you, bye. Let's actually count. I think it's 9, actually, foes that you face. Our questions about this, I wonder why we came to Amp Plains and Manectric and all were prepared for us. We gotta go get that water float, by the way. I wonder how they knew that we were here. I wonder who it could be, he says, knowing full well who it is, that they were hiding behind the same rock that we were hiding behind, I guess, or something along those lines, or maybe just that direction. Team Skull's like, hey, we did this. We thought you were going to lose, but, apparently not realizing that we're legendaries and mythicals. Maybe they just think we're regular Pokemon. But I find this hilarious that Team Skull's like, you know who we should pick a fight with? Legendary Pokemon. Also, here's another glitch moment brought to you by Dustnor at this point. I find it very odd. Team Skull's like, yeah, we can't mess with Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff's too strong. You know who we should mess with? A corrupted Dialga and Darkrai. Let's go for it. Another time gear was stolen, by the way. This is not good, by the way. Between you and me, this is not good. The time gears getting stolen. I haven't really discussed it because it's part of the journey throughout, but the time gear being stolen is not good for us because we're trying to take over the world here, and the time gears being stolen doesn't work because we don't know who has them, whether they're trying to save the world. I mean, nobody believes that. That's blasphemous. But what if they're trying to save the world with the time gear? We can't let that happen. We need to know where the time gears are so that when we take them, we know what we're doing with them. Instead, we don't know who's, this is a Grovyle character here. We don't know what they're going to do with it. Maybe they're trying to save the world. It's blasphemy. It's ridiculous. We got to make sure we find the time gears. Unfortunately, we don't know where they are, which leads us into this desert right here. Going into it, the northern desert. This is where, if you're in the normal run of the game, the difficulty starts to spike up. That's the word. Spike up a little bit. For us, though, us being us at this point, around the level 20-ish range, we're gonna just zoom through this. I also find it very fun at this point because Dialga and Darkrai are significantly taller out of world here in this overworld sprite compared to the normal starters. When the scene begins, you can just kind of see their head poking up before they actually walk in, and I find it funny because throughout this entire journey, I'm just thinking like, all right, we're gonna wait for the game to begin. Ready? Oh, the camera's moving, let's move forward, which is very fun as well. Nobody finds any time gears, which is both good and bad, but we head back over here, dive into that little quicksand area, and find out there's another cave, the Quicksand Cave, so wonderfully named. I'm gonna be honest, the naming in this game is about as good as I can do, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But we continue forward from here. Now, the ground types in this area are a little bit more concerning for me as Dialga. As you can tell, my health is slowly getting outpaced by Darkrai. Dialga's health, I don't know if it's because of how I played or what I set up, but Dialga does not get a lot of health points compared to Darkrai. But continuing on from here, we think we find a Time Gear. This Pokemon over here, Mesprit's like, hey, you're trying to steal the Time Gear? Don't do it. Oh, so we fight off Mesprit. Turning back into Dialga, turning back into Darkrai. Again, these battles, these boss battles, are significantly easier than the actual run-throughs itself. Not only is it because of the spread move ability that we have with Ominous Wind and then the Ancient Powers, both stacking up stat boosts, but also our typings really help us. This is back before the change that the Steel type had. I think at this point, Psychic type damage on Steel types was still cut in half. It was not very effective. And then we have Darkrai to the side, which is immune, which means significantly less damage from Psychic type moves. The Bad Dreams ability that I haven't really talked about, but Darkrai has as well, makes Hypnosis that much more impactful because Mesprit at this point is constantly taking 15 points of damage after every turn, I believe, which is big because we can stack turns with Ominous Wind and an Ancient Power and everything like that, making this that much easier as well. Mesprit's like, wait, we didn't steal the Time Gears, and Grovile's like, hi, that's me. Stand aside. Bang. I know we're the starters right now. I wish that we could come into the scene as Dialga and Darkrai, imagining Grovyle just walking in and be like, excuse me, bats us both away, including a 1-ton creature to the side. But ultimately, we're unsuccessful. Grovyle steals the Time Gear again, and now our plans for total world domination might be in jeopardy. So we find out through the power of the Dimensional Screen, we need to head to Crystal Cave for the final Time Gear, I believe. Or at least from our perspective, I think this is the final Time Gear. So, eventually reaching the end of Crystal Cave. That's probably where the Time Gear is. That's got the same sort of vibe field over there. We scoot over this way. Grovile's about to take the Time Gear here. We charge up forward. Grovile's like, can I have the Time Gear, please? Azop's like, what about no? And then summons the power of crystals here to effectively blockade off. Again, it's fun, Darkrai and Dialga. They're supposed to be off screen, but you can see them just kind of like vibing out before it. I wonder if they're just like waiting to be like hear the conversation before actually fighting this Grovyle. Speaking of, fun thing I never knew until going through like speedrun guides, you could just give up on this. You don't lose any items, you don't lose any Poke, because you're supposed to lose this fight, right? Even if you win, you lose, it doesn't matter. Grovyle has this exact scene play out. But I always thought, like, oh, if you wanted to lose, you have to try to lose. But giving up, don't lose your items either, which is remarkably helpful going forward, because this fight can take a few minutes. At this point, I'm running through this kind of like a speed run. Dusknoir shows up and is like, I'm fighting you. And then we're like, what? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Who are our allies? We're trying to destroy the world here. I need to know who we can trust to destroy the world. And at this point, I can't figure that out at all. A couple of days later, and just mass confusion here, after a Dusknoir monologue and a number of other factoids, eventually, we're able to capture Grovyle, which is great. It's wonderful. Grovyle was stealing the Time Gears, that's fine. Grovyle, you know what? You go back to the future, as Dusknoir told. He's from the future. All right, Dusknoir, thank you. You caught your bad guy. Go ahead, go back to the future. We'll take over the world from here. Appreciate all of your support, and all's well that ends well. Grovyle gets kicked in there. I've for some reason, never really noticed that. Dusknoir, about to head back, has a brief conversation with us, like, thank you so much. He takes us and brings us to the future. This is not going to work properly at all. We can't take over the world if we're not in the world we could take over. And it turns out we're getting captured here. Again, it's fun. You didn't even tie up Darkrai. I'm out of my my ropes right now. Grovile's fully binded up. It makes sense. I'm walking on this... I'm walking on these ropes right now. Darkrai, as a incorporeal being, is just floating through them, and Sableye and Dusknoir are like, nah, this is good. We tied them up perfectly. Clap your hands. By the way, Dusknoir at this point, for those of you that know the plot of this game, still hasn't recognized me for some reason, but that's fine, whatever. Grovyle decides to hey, let me hitch my wagon on these guys that are trying to beat Dusknoir, because at this point we are fully against Dusknoir, or I'm fully against Dusknoir. Darkrai's still trying to figure out how to properly play this game out. Sableye charges at us. They use their claws to strike, which won't do anything to me and could theoretically go through Darkrai. So Grovyle, fully understanding that we're two legendary beings at this point, is like, hey, look, you're not the problem. We're going to escape at the same time. Bang! Strike back. Surprise. Flash. Luminous Orb. they disappear. They charge out of here. We come out from underneath the ground. Again, the hole that I come out of, definitely not big enough. We just kind of magically appear, but sure, whatever. Again, Darkrai, you could just kind of like disappear, but sure, why not? And we charge out of here into the future and Chasm Cave. Now, this is a cave. This is a dungeon. This specific dungeon, normally very, very annoying. There's a fun thing that you might have noticed throughout these runs and the brief little dungeon clips I give you. But Dialga and Darkrai have the same sort of ability that ghosts have of being able to walk on water and maybe fire. I actually haven't tested that. I don't think I do. But for these type of dungeons where it's a bunch of tiny rooms and like large areas to cover here, it becomes remarkably easy because we can walk in this little like extra area out here, so we don't even have to bother going through the dungeons. I learned that these are basically in the speedrun guides that I was using. All you have to do is just walk around effectively, which is what I do, making this run from a dungeon that it takes like hours to do, a dungeon that I think it quite literally took me 10 minutes to do, which is very fun. Maybe not even that. Very, very fun here. And we go through a couple of different dungeons after dungeons, going through like the Sealed Ruins and other areas like that. Again, it's kind of just us versus the game at this point, fighting off against a bunch of tough opponents. We're getting a lot of experience points, which is nice. At this point, I'm in the high 20s, Darkrai in the mid 20s, which is very nice as well. And continue forward from here. The Sealed Ruin Pit right here, Grovile's in a bit of trouble right now. Spiritomb and all 108 voices in Spiritomb's head are like, hey, what if I just took you over? Which isn't a great idea. Spiritomb, you fail to understand that this is Darkrai and I'm Primal Dialga. Spiritomb fully just decides to pick a fight with two legendaries, which is nice as well. Ominous Wind, while it won't be super effective, will still do spread damage, and we've got a bunch of Reviver Seeds and stones to throw, including my Ancient Rocks, and fully just, get ready for this. Pressure is an interesting thing as well. At this point, we start to fight more foes with pressure as an ability, which makes it, a little bit more complicated because it limits our ability to collect stat boosts and speed boosts and other items like that. Ultimately, though, Spiritomb's not very powerful. We've got two pretty powerful Pokemon that are doing decent damage as well. These Ominous Winds and every other factor like this, it's a little bit more complicated here. I don't even bother at this point with Darkrai having actual damage because the quick attack won't do much, and we're getting pretty close to the health that we need to do and take out Spiritomb from there. This is a fun little conversation that I left here. Dialga's like, not Dialga, Darkrai is like, who's Dialga? And then there's this urge, I think, in game that's like, I want to raise my hand. Darkrai, what are you saying? Don't play your hand too much. Come on, we're trying to figure this out. Trying to beat Primal Dialga. Wait a minute, that's me. I mean, no, it's not me. I'm just a normal Dialga here. Darkrai is, I think, at this point, fully convinced that Dusknoir is on the side of good, which is of destruction of the world. Tries to fight it off, only for Grovyle to be like, no, don't do it. Darkrai, can't play it off. We gotta stick with Grovyle. This is the thing that we have to do. In order to save the world that we want to save, which is this world of the future world, we need to go with Grovyle to go back to the past, to steal the time gears, and hopefully destroy the world when we can save the world. It makes sense, right? We continue on from here. Grovyle has now joined the party. The kind of delusional part of me is fully convinced Grovyle knows about our plan, but we have to try to avoid it all the same. Grovyle sticking with us. No matter how hard we try to escape Grovyle, Grovyle continues to stick with us. You see Darkrai trying to go through cut through the areas, trying to add a step. Not gonna work. Eventually, we're gonna go find Celebi. Celebi might have been captured by Primal Dialga, which doesn't make sense because that's me, but sure. Only for Celebi to be like, nope, I'm shiny, I'm also here, hello. Darkrai very surprised by this. Grovile's like, we need to go back to the past because we did not succeed. And Celebi's all fine and dandy with this, and this is the scariest moment right here. Celebi right there recognizes us, maybe, but then convinces themselves that we aren't who we think we are. Perfect, that's great, that's fine. Another fun thing I didn't notice, which you wouldn't have noticed this in the game because you're not supposed to be a giant creature like Dialga is, but in these games, in Blue Rescue Team and Explorers of Sky and those generations, there's actually a size limit to your team, not the 4 members, but actual physical size. And apparently, either Darkrai or probably me are so big that Celebi doesn't join us on that adventure, which is fun because Celebi tends to spam moves that aren't particularly useful and we can't control their moves. So that makes the dungeon slightly easier to go with. We're about to fight Dusknoir and the squad here. That's all fine. Master Dialga shows up. That's not good. Wait a minute. That's me. That can't work. But how are you here? Because I'm here. Oh, I see what it is. I see what the problem is. Also, they say this whole like little partner thing. Like, what's your name of the partner? It's Primal. That's me. It's not me, guys. It's not me. I'm the bad guy. Look, you and I know that I'm the bad guy. I don't know why I'm talking like this. But I see. I understand the journey now. I can't destroy the world from here. I need to go back to the past and continue the actions that we do there, so that I can defeat myself and then destroy the world. It makes perfect sense. It's completely understandable. By destroying the world in the past, I create the instance where I destroy the world in the future, thus destroying the world via night. Make sense? Perfect. Completely understood. Let's go. After a little flash sequence here of moving forward, Dialga, me in the future, in the past, in the future, tries to destroy the past version of me, I think, or it's like stops the past version of me, because I think I want to help me but not help me. Making perfect sense here. Can you tell that this makes perfect sense? Look, I have the full clipboard, not clipboard, I have the full whiteboard behind with a bunch of push pins and everything like that, being like, hey, look, this is the plan, makes perfect sense here as we return back to the past, to the future, to the past. Yes, future Dialga in the past to prepare for the past to turn into the future. Perfect. Now that we're all clear, we move on to the next dungeon from here after Darkrai tries to figure out where to go. Fully on the Nightmare Squad here, we move over eventually to Tree Shroud Forest. For the first time gear, now Grovyle thinks that we're the allies on their side to steal the time gears, but in fact we're stealing the time gears to destroy the world, and we'll collect them and then continue the journey from there, which is makes sense. Sure, yes, okay. Anyway, at this point, also Tree Shroud Forest is the first dungeon where I'm really gonna have a little bit of trouble with. There's multiple instances where fire types like Ninetales fully takes me out. Not ideal, of course. Eventually get through and reach this area, the Tree Shroud Forest time gear, which Grovyle takes. Kind of unfortunate. We needed the time gear, but you know what? It's fine. It's cool. Whatever floats your boat. Grovyle takes it. We'll just steal it from Grovyle later and continue forward from there. We've now convinced Wigglytuff's guild that we're the good guys and come over and learn more about the Hidden Land. We need to go to the Hidden Land so that we can destroy the structure that has the time gears on, which makes perfect sense, right? Perfect. Darkrai's on our side as well. You know, we're just going through this all fine and dandy. I left the skunk tank text in there for some reason. I'm not gonna edit that out. We continue forward now. Chatot on our side, maybe. Going through Brine Cave. This is supposedly the end of the area where the Hidden Land destination location is going to be. We've got the relic fragment. Darkrai has that. Probably stole it from some kid that was supposed to save the world. Whatever, doesn't matter. It's on our side now. So all we have to do, get through Brine Cave, and from there, we can go to the Hidden Land, where we can then destroy the thing that's holding all the time gears together, and then save the world by keeping the world the same and thus destroying it. Yes, perfect. Makes sense. Let's move over as we continue forward in Brine Cave. Chatot, I think, is keeping an eye on us, maybe. I think Chatot, as our Cedric equivalent, is trying to save the world properly. We don't want that to happen, and so we continue forward with here. Apparently there's some bad guys in this area as well. I'm crossing my fingers that they knock out Chatot. Not 100% sure if that's going to work. As we're trying to look for them as well, maybe try to convince them that they're on our side. They're above us, they attack us. Chatot does the best thing in the world and knocks themselves out, a la Mordak, and continues forward from here. All fine and dandy as Chatot completely knocks out. We go fight them because clearly they're not deciding to join us. And this again, very quick, just ominous wins. At this point now, we also have feint attack, which is nice as well. And kind of just move forward from there. We just take a step to the left, ominous wind. We throw a couple of rocks here. Do I even throw the rocks at this point? I might Metal Claw. Nope, I throw rocks. Trying to get the stab boost. Throw some rocks, ominous wind. Knocks out one of the Stars. That boosts up Darkrai. The rollout, thankfully that didn't work. Slash isn't going to do anything to me. Ominous wind some more. Now we just start chucking rocks and throwing wind, I guess. Is that the best way to describe it? We throw some wind. We throw some scary wind at the Cop Tops here. And eventually, after a couple more hits, we knock them out. All fun, all dandy. They run away. Chatot, we kind of need them. I'm fully stepping on Chatot at this point, trying to officially defeat them. And then Grovyle and Wigglytuff like, hey, we got to come back. And I'm like, oh no, I can't stick with that. Also, another glitch situation right here. Apparently, game can't handle giant Dialga, so we got to transform back into our starter form. I got to go all the way back to Waterfall Cave, which is before the spring, the hot spring area where we talk, in order to get to the point where I can transform into a starter and go from there. So real quick zoom through here. We got some information. We got to keep going. La-di-da-di-da. Move on from here. Torkoal tells us a little bit more about the hidden land. We've gone through this entire thing. They find out Brine Cave, yada yada yada. Continuing forward from here, after again defeating Kabutops and Omastar, get through this scene as well, where Team Skull tries to steal the relic fragment that we stole from somebody else. Probably the Charmander and Bulbasaur that we transformed into. That's my bet. Darkrai probably stole it from them. Eventually, though, we're able to save Chatot-ish. Not ideal. We wanted to officially push them. We could push them into one of those lakes over there, but not ideal. Able to save them. Wigglytuff's like, thank you so much. And we're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Grovyle joins us in our journey to save the world, which is still not great. We need Grovyle to get away in order for us to fully corrupt the world. But we move on from there. This is fun as well. Apparently Lapras can hold on to Primal Dialga and a floating Darkrai. But moving forward, we reach the hidden land. This is where we have to go. That little tower up there, that's our destination. Starting off, hidden land. Grovyle's still with us. This is less allies, which is good, because all the allies are trying to actually be allies, and we don't want them to, because again, our end goal is not to fix the time gears. No. By the way, Grovyle's been holding on to the time gears all this time, which is still something we have to steal. But our end goal is not to fix the time gears. No. Our end goal is to destroy the structure that's there, or maybe persuade the Primal Dialga that's up there that we're the future selves and all is fine and dandy. So we continue forward from there. The enemies in this area, you'd think they'd be on our side. They're also trying to stop people from coming into the, into the time gear land, the top of Temporal Tower. But no, they want to start fighting us. All these fire types as well, especially Lava Plume, not great. Not great, especially because they're full-on one-hitting us despite the fact that it's not even super effective, us being part Dragon type here. Another instance as well, despite this hard effort here by this Bastiodon to stay alive, we eventually reach another instance of a foe trying to beat us, which is not ideal. It's the same types of foes as well. It's always the same guys, you know that? It's never anyone that you can actually fight off properly. It's the same people. It's Magmortars, it's Ninetales, it's folks that are out here fully confident in their ability to destroy us, which is not ideal. In this case, it's like Garchomps and a bunch of Rampardos and fun Pokemon like that. The Sandstorm here, we're just fully missing Dragonclaw, which is not ideal. Eventually, we get to this point. Dusknoir is about to take us back to the future. I think Dusknoir thinks this is helping. This is not. I'm going to be perfectly honest. We don't want there to even be a chance. Dusknoir doesn't believe us, though. Grovyle is fully confused about the conversation we're having as we're trying to destroy the Temporal Tower again. So we got to fight him. Again, same strategy as always. Ominous Wind. I throw a bunch of rocks. Grovyle does Grovyle things. Maybe we'll throw the Xi Seed or the Sun Seed or a Sleep Seed as Dusknoir. I think we throw the Sleep Seed after setting all this up. Making sure that Ominous Wind is on. I make sure I've got my moves ready. We've got the Sleep Seed right down there. So chuck that at Dusknoir, making sure that Dusknoir also gets impacted by bad dreams, and we can deal with them later effectively. So throw the Sleep Seed. Dusknoir falls asleep. Ominous Wind. Actually enough to knock out a decent number of the Sableye here. Another Ominous Wind knocks everybody else. Basically, if you get hit, you're out, except for that Sableye over there. We continue forward. We're just moving forward. I don't want to get close to Dusknoir. I'd rather have Dusknoir come to us, because I also don't think Dusknoir has a spread move. And the Ominous Winds, the bad dreams are in full effect here, so we can just kind of wait it out effectively. Each of Darkrai's turns is causing another bad dreams, eventually knocking them out as well. Grovyle jumps into the future, pushing Dusknoir as well, which is perfect for us, because now it's just us two. All we have to do is get to the top of the tower, either persuade the Dialga up there that we're part of the bad guy squad and we can continue from there, or if they don't, we fight them, beat them, and then destroy the tower as well. Either way, it's a win-win situation as long as we can beat Primal Dialga that's up there, not the me version of Primal Dialga, the corrupting version, because I'm the corrupted version from the future. That's not the one that you saw there, but now coming back to the back, you get the gist. Anyway, we get to the top of the pinnacle Temporal Tower after going through the actual tower itself. There's the giant lightning bolts that are coming out from there. The giant structure right here where you can fit the time gears. Perfect. This is what it is. Darkrai, you understand? We have to destroy this, okay? That's the end goal. We need to destroy this specific section. Lightning bolt charges at us. You seek the destruction of Temporal Tower? Yes, we do. You want to stop us? So that's not good. They think we want to stop it. We don't want to stop it. We want to help you. We want to help you destroy. I mean, you think we're destroying. Oh, this Primal Dialga isn't fully corrupted yet, so it thinks we're trying to save the tower. That's not good. We need to fight. On a gameplay note, this is easily going to be the most difficult fight this entire run is going to have. Unlike every other foe, especially the ones that we've fought so far, this opponent, Primal Dialga, has a spread move that it's willing to use in Roar of Time. Roar of Time is a move that you'll see right after this ominous win, is able to one-shot me and do significant amounts of damage to Darkrai, which isn't great, especially considering the amount of items we have isn't a lot. The current strategy I have here is Xi Seed, Violent Seed, Darkrai, and then from there just spam Ominous Winds and hope that Dialga doesn't take the effort to charge at us, or does take the effort to charge at us. Basically, we want Dialga to not use Roar of Time, use anything else it's got, which is going to be a combination of factors here. Me being distant, looking back on it, isn't the ideal thing if you want Dialga not to use Roar of Time, though the Xi Seed is forcing Primal Dialga to run around the surface effectively, eventually waiting for it to fade out. Using Geo Bubbles, I actually switched. I've had a Joy Seed for Darkrai to help boost them up a little bit in the level side of things. Switched that back out for the special band we've been using for this entire run. That Roar of Time right there knocks me out again, using up our final Reviver Seed. The pause is slightly helpful, though again, we want to be next to each other. That's the ideal thing here. The orbs are worthless. The bands at this point are already set up. Darkrai's already out of Ominous Winds. We're close to each other. This is the ideal thing we want to do. So, in fact, at this point, we want to just force Dialga to not have any moves on it, right? Forcing it to be asleep, to be paralyzed, to be stunned, whatever works. The Petrified right here actually helps a little bit. I switched to Dragon Claw, which is going to do more damage than Metal Claw would. Darkrai's got the more support side of things happening at this point. The Intimidator IQ skill isn't helpful either, because that again just uses up turns. Attempt 1 fails. We go into attempt 2 here, slightly better of a strategy. This is me, same setup as well, so similar sort of moves and everything like that. The Ominous Wind, the Roar of Time, this is all going to happen exactly the same. For those of you that haven't used save states in these type of games, a lot of this is scripted, so arguably you could just go back and effectively map out the ideal plan. This would involve you, like, to force the opponent to use a specific type of move, you got to go in a direction you don't want to go in, or something wild like that. I didn't want to do that because though this is a challenge that is overtly complicated, I do want it to be possible to do without, like, gaming the system. The reason why I'm not describing this battle, by the way, we're eventually going to lose. I don't want to game the system. I want to do this. If this was possible in a regular run through, I want to make it as possible and not knowing things in advance. That uses up our final Reviver Seed. We don't really have a shot here, as this Metal Claw knocks us out. Even the Metal Claws are knocking us out with not very effective moves. So I actually go back to the halfway point here, where I had more Reviver Seeds, I had slightly better items, and try to run it through again, this time trying not to use Reviver Seeds in the fight itself. I'm able to survive with a couple. I don't actually know if this is any better or worse, but we do collect a couple of items in the dungeon itself, which is helpful, including a second Violent Seed. So, new strategy here. Ominous Wind, I step over to the left, Ominous Wind happens, Roar of Time happens. This is almost guaranteed regardless of what happens. Here, though, I stun the opponent. This is perfect, because now I can heal Darkrai up. We can both eat a Violent Seed, one that I found in the dungeon, the other one was the one that we had previously. And then from here, we can just kind of walk ourselves up to Primal Dialga. Very, very helpful. Because now, Dialga is going to be tempted to use other moves, and we can get more damage done ourselves. So I just face Dialga right here, set up the support moves, set up the Ominous Winds. I go for Dragon Claw because I'm trying to get damage down. I believe Primal Dialga starts off with 750 health points, or somewhere around that ballpark. So I'm actually trying to do the math here, seeing how much we've done so far. It's been 46, and we do have one Reviver Seed in the back pocket if necessary. So from here, we go officially for the attack. I'm actually making sure I want Darkrai to play more of the support role here, get the damage done. We can do a lot of damage. The Violent Seed boost is really helpful here. It's dealing 150 plus damage. Ominous Wind as well, we set it up. Being asleep is helpful as well because of the chip damage we can do off of Bad Dreams. The Ominous Wind is helpful here, and the final Dragon Claw to win it. A success. We have destroyed the world? Wait a minute. Darkrai, did you put the time gears inside the... No, this is not good. This is not good, because if... Wait. If Dialga has recovered, and I'm from the future where Primal Dialga existed, and Darkrai put the time gears in? I don't understand. Wait. Does that mean the world is... It's saved? It's damaged and still... No. Time's recovered. What are you talking about? No. We brought peace to the world. No. This is not the plan. This is not the plan. We wanted to destroy the world, Darkrai. What are you doing? Lapras is waiting your return. No, but that's not... No, because if Dialga's back to normal, then... I disappear. No. This can't happen. This cannot happen. Darkrai, you betrayed me. You want to go with the secondary plan? You want to go with the plan with Palkia? Don't play this, oh, I'm so sad because Primal disappeared nonsense. No. I see the plan perfectly. You didn't steal the relic fragment at all, probably. This was a ploy. This was a ploy to use the Palkia strategy, because you thought that would be more impactful. I see what you're doing here. Going back to Wigglytuff's tower as the hero, only to destroy the world and control it on your own? I know how you work, Darkrai. I've seen the post-game. I know how this operates. You're gonna cry in the little beach here. No. The Krabby don't understand it either. They're blowing bubbles like everything is fine. I know the truth. I know what you're really doing here. You're trying to take over the world for yourself. I thought this was a tag team effort. Flashbacks, all emotional stuff. Blasphemy! This is clearly a ploy. Primal isn't with you. What are you doing? Look at this. Look at all this fake crying by Darkrai here. It's a ploy. He's gotten everybody on his side now. This is blasphemous. Also, here's the credits. Thanks for listening, everyone. Oh boy, this was a fun adventure to do. Thanks everyone for listening to me ramble for an hour. Appreciate all of your support. Happy April Fools, everyone. I don't know if this was any good of a joke or the story whatsoever, but I hope it was interesting all the same. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, supporting in any way, shape, or form that you do. If you want to check out other Explorers of Sky or Blue Rescue Team challenges, you can see them on your screen right now or in the cards. Until next time, everyone, take care.